Hi, welcome to Winemakers Live with Angeline Vineyards. My name is Leslie Renaud, and I'm the winemaker here.
And I'm Rainey Patterson, an assistant winemaker here. Leslie, would you tell us about your background a little bit?
Sure. I grew up in Honolulu, Hawaii, went to college at the University of Michigan. I've been in the wine industry for a little over 20 years now, and I've been with with Angeline Vineyards for about a year.
So I was born and raised here in Northern California. I studied enology and viticulture at UC Davis. And after that, I did some harvests in France, Australia, and some in California before settling down here at Angeline 2 years ago.
So I wanted to tell you a little bit about Angeline Vineyards. We're located in the Russian River Valley, which is approximately an hour north of the city of San Francisco. We are a relatively small family-owned vineyard that's a sole proprietorship owned by Courtney Benham. There are the two of us, plus there's another member of our winemaking staff who's not here today, whose name is Melissa Hackett. So our winemaking staff is made up 100% of female winemakers, which is very unusual. And the vast majority of our cellar crew is also made up of women.
Yeah, lots of ladies here. So let's see, we can talk a little bit about our style of winemaking here. We like minimal intervention to accentuate fruit and our place here in California.
Yes, our goal is really to deliver some great fruit-forward wines at a really affordable price. Sonoma County is a fantastic place to be growing fruit
and
that
living.
way. Yes, and living here as well. We have very warm days during the summertime. It's very much of a maritime climate, so cool evenings, big diurnal shift. It's typically about 30 degrees cooler at night than it is during the daytime, which allows for some really great fruit-forward wines, but retains some really nice acidity.
That's key. So I think we'll start tasting some wines today. This is our 2018 California Chardonnay. I'll taste with you today. So our Chardonnay vineyards are from nice foggy coastal areas of California. So like that diurnal shift, it retains a lot of fruit and a lot of acidity. We bring it here to the winery to ferment, and we ferment it in stainless steel as well as barrels to preserve minerality and then bring out that fruit, of course. After we ferment, we age sur lie, so meaning we let it settle and connect with the grape, and then it creates a creamy mouthfeel.
So what notes are you picking up in this, Rainey?
I get a lot of cantaloupe and honeysuckle, and let's see, a lot of bright fruit with nice little oak balance.
It's got some great baking spice elements too from the barrels. What would you like to eat with this wine?
Oh, I love having Chardonnay with spicy foods such as like curry and then mostly fish dishes as well. It really cuts the spice, and then the fatness of the Chardonnay from the creamy mouthfeel comes out well. Cool. So we'll move on to our California Pinot.
So next up is our 2018 California Pinot. This is sourced basically from about 350 mile swath of California. So the great thing is that we can pick from some of the greatest Pinot Noir growing regions of the state.
So what are you getting out of this?
So I get a lot of cranberry and some raspberry, Rainier cherries. Again, there's some nice oak components to this.
My favorite part about this wine is this. I feel like this is just quintessential California Pinot Noir. That's kind of what we try to do here at Angeline, is like drive forward exactly, like be true to the variety and be true to California.
That is one thing that I am incredibly proud of working with Angeline Wines, is just that they definitely have, they're really, really varietally correct. They express a sense of place. They're very food-friendly wines, and I think they're a fantastic value. So with this Pinot Noir, I think that it would taste really, really good with some pork tenderloin, maybe a little cream sauce, some orange zest.
Oh yeah, that sounds delicious.
Now I'm hungry.
I know, right? All right, let's move on to our next wine. So our next wine is from actually the Russian River here, where our winery is located in Sonoma County. So this one we like to have represent where we are, where we're from, and what we're proud of here. So with this, we bring it into the winery and ferment in open-top fermenters and punch down during fermentation and to maximize fruit and tannins. So here we're getting a lot of nice mix, like some wild berry jams, and it's very brambly, like some nice pomegranate notes.
And I think the color on this wine is really great, which I think is very representative of the Russian River Valley. So we discussed earlier that we do have these big diurnal swings. Being a cooler climate, we tend to have sort of some smaller berries, but we have really early bud break, which basically means we have a lot of hang time on the fruit itself. So it lends to be kind of a thicker skin, which lends a lot of color to the wine.
Yeah, color and structure. It's like the difference between the California is that I would say that's like a brighter, fruitier wine, and then this one is kind of a more serious, still very fruity, but has more structure, more serious, and food friendly. There really aren't any. Mm-hmm.
So what do you think would pair well with this wine?
Oh, yes. So my favorite fancy pairing would be some nice duck with roasted potatoes, but I also could see this with like a nice roasted vegetable salad, something with earth, but fresh as well.
And definitely a really food-friendly wine.
Yeah, super food-friendly for vegetarians alike. All right, let's see here. I think we'll do the Merlot. Yeah.
So we're going to head south from the Russian River Valley a couple hundred miles, which is the Paso Robles region. Paso Robles is sort of the Napa Valley of the Central Coast, if you will. It's a very warm growing region, but again, it does have good diurnal shifts. Makes for really, really nice Bordeaux varietal wines. So this is our 2018 Paso Robles Merlot. We bring this in, and with this and our Pinot Noirs as well, we tend to cold soak them for about 4 or 5 days. Fermentation kicks off after about 5 days. Typically takes maybe 6 or 7 days after that, and then we press it off and go straight to barrel.
Yeah, you can really get some more barrel influence here.
Yeah. One of the things I really like about this Merlot is it's got that sort of combination of a little bit of herbaceousness, but a lot of fruit forward at the same time. So you get a little bit of a mint and sort of a clove character to it.
Yeah, very unique and delicious. What would you have with this food-wise?
So my husband and I are always looking for activities to do, especially during this time when we're all locked up in our houses. So we came up with our new favorite ravioli a few weeks ago, which is braised short rib and polenta ravioli.
Oh, wow.
It's really good and would pair really, really well with this Merlot.
Yes, especially with that herbaceousness you were talking about really goes with like more of the gamier meats. And oh man, that would be delicious. Why don't you talk a little bit about why we choose the bottle and screw cap?
So yes, if you'll notice, all the wines that are here are done in screw cap, and that's done intentionally. We want the wine, when you open the bottle of wine, to taste the same as it did the day that we bottled it. So screw caps enable that to happen, so the aging doesn't happen quite as rapidly as it does with a cork. And then you also don't need to worry about having any TCA taint at all. So what you are expecting is exactly what you will get when you open the bottles.
And it's good for picnicking. You never have to worry about bringing that wine key.
I've been at so many events with multiple winemakers and nobody has a wine key.
Yeah.
So screw caps are great for that.
Yeah. All right, so next we are going to taste our Cabernet. But quick, we'd like to shout out We love the Merlot message.
Thank you, William Higgins.
We really appreciate it. We love it too. All right, this is our California Cabernet. So for this, we were really going for that like quintessential California cab. It's big, it's bold, it's juicy, all over. So we wanted a strong tannin profile, but we really wanted to maintain the approachability. So it's very fruity and full of flavor. Let's see.
And it's also incredibly drinkable now, so it's not a cab that you need to cellar for a couple of years before you can drink it. The tannins are incredibly well integrated. It's very fruit forward. It's very typical California style Cabernet.
Yeah, so we're getting notes of like white pepper and mocha and cocoa with dark fruit like blackberries and cassis and like just really all over full flavor. This is perfect for when you want to splurge on a Tuesday for steak night and make that nice blue cheese sauce with it and really indulge, but on a weekday. For that weekday price. Cool. So those were our 5 wines we're tasting through today. We also just wanted to share with you some stuff about us and the winery, what's going on right now. So we are prepping to bottle our 2019 white wine. So we have the Chardonnay and Sauvignon Blanc getting ready to go. And then our reds are currently aging still. Let's see.
So we are fortunate in that where we are in California, we are still working every day. We're considered an essential business. It's part of being an agricultural product. So we are still here happily making wine for you every day. Busy bottling, getting ready, thinking about harvest, which is coming up soon.
Prepping already. Yes, it gets here before you know it. We'd also like to open this up to some questions from you all. So feel free to chime in and we'd be happy to answer some questions while we chat more about Angeline.
So one question that I just saw is that how do our Pinots compare to Burgundy? I would say that California tends to be much fruitier.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not California tends to be fruitier. California wines tend to be fruitier. So much more concentration. I think that they're ready to drink a lot earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're incredibly fruit friendly, but they're also really good just on their own, just sitting around and having a glass of wine.
Right. So they're not like, it's not tied necessarily to food, but it goes well with it also. It
complements well, but it doesn't necessarily you don't have to have food with the wine.
Good happy hour choice.
Yes. But definitely very much more fruit forward than Burgundian wines.
Yeah. Overall. Let's see. Do we have any more questions at the moment? Let's see. We have one here that is asking, what's the most important thing to you as a winemaker in the cellar?
The most important thing to me is for the wines to have a sense of place and typicity. I don't ever want to try to steer them into being something that they're not. So I like to be sort of as minimalist as possible. We're really sort of making an effort to go towards a lot of native fermentations, native malolactic fermentations. I think that using commercial yeast is a great thing, but it tends to steer your wines to have a particular flavor profile. Whereas if we let them come in and ferment with the yeast that came in on the vines, I think they have much more of a sense of place.
Yes, I totally agree. It's been fun to see how unique these wines have been turning out in individual lots and individual tanks, and then it's been great blending them together and seeing how like the ones that were more fruity and then the ones that had more minerality, how they all come together. It's been really exciting this year.
So there's a question saying, do we do a lot of grain harvest? I'm assuming that means dropping fruit prior to harvest. We definitely do passes within the vineyard, dropping when we get about 80% through veraison, dropping the grain fruit so that the wine is the grapes are all consistent in terms of their maturity.
Oh, there we go. We can see questions better now.
Cool. There's a question regarding our land profile in California. I'm going to let you field that one.
Yeah, so we have a really diverse land here in California because it goes quickly from the coast and then it goes into a nice valley and then we have mountains and they're pretty much everywhere. So we get, like we mentioned earlier, a lot of diurnal shifts in temperature, meaning hot days, cool nights, which is essential for grape growth. Many places in the world that are famous for growing grapes have that critical diurnal temperature shift. So we're very lucky here to have that as well. What's also cool about California is because of how diverse it is, we have a million microclimates. So we have the soil profiles anywhere from super sandy to very much a lot of clay. Here in the Russian River Valley, we have a
lot of clay
loam, which lends for that classic Russian River cranberry flavors there and nice tannins. But in general, we have a lot of different soil types here.
And that's the great thing, so that we do source some of our fruit from north to south is roughly 350 miles. So we can, so we can just take advantage of all the different sort of microclimates.
We have some more questions here.
One of my favorite. What are the dangers of native fermentation? So I'll get a little bit on my soapbox here. I think that approximately, 50 years ago or someone said there was a yeast salesperson who did a really good job of scaring winemakers out of using native yeast. I've never had a problem using native yeast. I've been using it for 20 years. The big thing that you have to focus on is the nutrient level of the wine itself. So we check, here's the super geeky part. We check nitrogen levels for the wine because nitrogen is what the yeast consumes, which makes happy fermentations. Mm-hmm. So as long as you're on top of your nutrient level, you'll never have a problem with a native ferment.
We didn't have a single problem this
year.
No,
they all flew right through.
It was very clean. So that was really exciting. Another question we have here is if we use American or French oak. We use both because both is essential to create some balance. Do you have more on that?
We also use Hungarian in addition to French and American. They have very different flavor profiles, and some work better in things than others. Typically, I'm not a huge proponent of American oak and Pinot Noir, but I love it in Chardonnay. American oak is fantastic in Cab and Merlot. So we've done massive amounts of oak trials lately, so to really sort of hone in onto exactly what it is that we like.
Yeah, that's been really fun. Let's see, some more questions. How do we protect our grapes, especially Pinot Noir, from the heat and sun? That's a good question.
So leaf pulling is very, very important. And it sort of depends on which part of the state that you're in, whether you do leaf pulling for morning sun or afternoon sun. We discussed earlier that we get tons of fog. So typically afternoon sun is stronger than the morning sun because the fog stays there. So it's just from, good viticultural practices.
Yeah, we have really good people in the vineyard working and keeping our grapes nice and safe and ready for harvest soon-ish. Let's see, do we filter and fine? So we do filter because we want to make sure that everyone who receives a bottle of Angeline wine tastes the way that it should. And it is nice and clean and ready for drinking.
And we use something that's called a cross-flow filter. I won't get really geeky onto that, but it's a very, very gentle way to filter wine. And it tends to really just sort of polish it and make it just like super bright right before it goes in the bottle.
Yeah, let's see. We have another question. What are our thoughts about alternative packaging, bags and cans, etc.?
We do. We keg.
Yeah, so we do for restaurants. We do a nice, good kegging program, which has been really successful. People love being able to order a glass of wine on tap, and that's been fun to figure out how to do.
And it's great for the environment. There's far less waste. And the wine lasts for a really long time in the kegs. We haven't done anything with bag-in-a-box or canning, but that doesn't mean we won't in the future. Who knows?
Yeah, that's the fun thing about our owner. He's always really inventive and he sees in the future well and predicts what we should be doing. And we've been lucky so far. So let's see what else here. Let's see. For kegs, do you have to use more sulfur? No, it's pressurized, so it's all ready to go in there as per usual for bottle. I mean, with screw cap also it's closed, so we don't have to worry about using high levels of SO2 as you would with cork. Let's see. Why are your wines able to offer such exceptional value to the quality price ratio? That's a good question too, because that's pretty much what we are trying to do every day. What would you say?
I would say a lot of that is really driven by the owner. Courtney tends to really want to make sure that he over delivers on everything. So we do a lot of sourcing for packaging to try to get best prices and things. We've got long-term agreements with different growers.
Yeah, we just try to make it the best we can with minimal intervention so that you can get exactly that quintessential cab or quintessential Pinot from California. Let's see, another question here is if we had to pick our favorite Angeline wine, which one would it be and why? We'll both do this one.
I would have to say that mine would be the Russian River Pinot. Mm-hmm. So I'm definitely would consider myself to be a Pinophile. It's my absolute favorite thing to make. The great thing about Pinot is that every time that you change the slope or the aspect or the latitude or longitude, it's a completely different animal, and it's really, really fun to make. It is really great to do blending trials on. I enjoy it much more than anyone else because, not more than anyone else, more than anything else, because the wines just really sort of tell their own story, and you don't have to work that hard on blending. It just sort of comes to you that these are what should go together.
Yeah, I think that's also with our minimal winemaking technique is that we don't want more work than we need. We want the fruit to talk for itself. We want blending to be easy because every block expresses itself wonderfully, and that's our goal. Let's see, my favorite would have to be, I think, the cab, the California cab. It overperforms every time. It is shocking to me how full of flavor it is, and the tannins are always so great. I love pouring it for friends who don't know about Angeline, and they're always like, to taste it, and they're like, wow, like, what is this? Like, this is some super expensive cab. And I'm like, nope, it's Angeline from California, and it always shocks the crowd. So it goes with every food because of how fruity it is. So you don't have to always have a steak with it. You can have much lighter meals, and it's an all-around favorite. Let's see, another question.
So question is regarding what do we use to fine? Typically we use bentonite, which is a clay. Mm-hmm. It is vegan. We do, however, use some gelatin on Bordeaux varietals at times. Mm-hmm. So that would not be vegan. There are different products that are coming out now that are potato starches that are being utilized more often, that we're starting to do some trials with to try to steer it more into a vegan friendly.
That is definitely a new direction the industry is heading towards, making sure that everything is vegan, and we're seeing lots of developments and products to use coming in the future soon. That's exciting. Let's see, a new question. Do we use the same barrels each year? So we do like to keep a different amount of new versus used barrels depending on what wine we're trying to make. You don't want, if you use 100% new oak, you're going to get, the oak balance will be out of control and you won't get that fruit, and all you'll get is oak flavors. So it's best to use a balance of new oak and once, twice, or 3 times used oak. And we typically don't keep anything older than 5 years or 6 years.
As long as you maintain the cleanliness of your barrels, you can use them as storage vessels basically forever, but you won't get the actual oak impact out of them after about 4 years.
Oh, so we have a fun question for you, Leslie. William Higgins is also from Hawaii, and he wants to know, what did you first start to drink? What were you drinking that made you want to be a winemaker?
That's a great question. So I grew up not in a wine family. My parents both drink vodka and quite a bit of it, but I don't tell them I said that. So I went to University of Michigan and moved to Portland, Oregon. I was really into beer and was actually contemplating becoming a brewer. I got into wine basically because I'm kind of a geeky person, and the wine chemistry went well with what I studied in college, which was water chemistry. Mm-hmm. So I did environmental education and aquatic resource management. So the reason I got into it was from the science side of it, and that's what actually got me to learn to love wine. But I was not interested in wine when I first got into the business.
Typical in Hawaii.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the best part about winemaking, is that it's the perfect intersection of science and culture and business and art and the food. It's just it's all my favorite things. So that's fun. Next question.
Do we have any say in the management of our vineyards? Absolutely. We work very much hand in hand with the vineyard managers, talking about what our style is. They definitely understand what it is that we're looking for. We walk the vineyards with them. We taste fruit with them before making picking decisions. So we absolutely work with them 100% of the time.
Yeah, that's really where it comes from. So you can't make good wine from bad grapes.
Correct.
So you got to start out with great grapes. Let's see. Another question here is, do your growers use sustainable or organic practices?
Yes. So they use sustainable practices. Organic, I would say that growers try to be as organic as possible, but they often don't want to be 100% organic just so that they have something in their arsenal should something really bad happen weather-wise. But they tend to be as organic as possible. We here at the winery, we're actually a certified sustainable winery, which means that we are very cognizant of our water usage, we make sure that we compost all of our seeds and skins. We're sustainable with our employees.
Yes,
so
recycle.
Very important.
Yeah, as members of Sonoma County, also, the environment is super important to us. We want to preserve our really special slice of California, and that's critical. So let's see, another question here is, what is the aging potential of the wines, and at what age do you like drinking them? So the cool part about Angeline is that we thoroughly prepare our wines to be consumed when you buy them, but also we give them an acid structure in order to last for a few years. So you can age it for as long as you'd like. We encourage you to hold on to a few and let us know how they're tasting later on, but they're ready to drink when you buy them as well.
Another question is, if we could make a vintage somewhere other than California, where would it be? My answer would be Oregon. I love working with Oregon fruit. It's really fun. I've done it in the past, and they're also super spoiled in that their growing season or their winemaking season is like 3 weeks long, whereas ours starts in late August and goes basically through to Thanksgiving.
Oh, wow.
Because we start with Pinot Noir, which is usually like the third week in August, and then we finish with Cab, which isn't until late October, early November.
Yeah, that would be really interesting.
And where would you do it?
Oh, I have a thing for Provence and would like make some kind of crazy international wine, but I love making Provençal rosé. I love that fresh acidity and fruit with low alcohol and something to enjoy in the afternoon. So that would be cool.
And I will have to say, I don't know if the rosé is going over to your side of the pond, but if it does, I think the 19 rosés are beautiful for Angeline this year.
Yes, it is amazing. I'm very excited about that. Let's see. Tessa would like to know, which cheese do you think goes well with the Cab Sauv? Oh, good question. Man, I like to do for cheese plates, the key is to have the 3 different elements. So you need a hard, salty cheese, like an aged Gouda.
Yep.
And then you need a creamy brie-like cheese.
Latour.
Latour, very good. And then the third is a medium cheese, kind of like a sharp cheddar or manchego usually. So like a medium soft cheese with salt also. So those all go really well with this, but then also you can splurge for some nice Roquefort blue cheese. Really goes well with the cab as well. Let's see, are we experimenting with any new grape varieties? Not at the moment. We love to focus, and we're just still driving towards perfection with these classic varieties, but we would definitely not say no if something came up.
I also think it'll be interesting, and that with climate change, I think people are starting to look at some different varieties, so that could definitely be something in the future.
Yeah, we're always looking to change. Let's see, some more questions coming up. Well, we might have reached.
Bill's busy writing.
We have another one.
Oh, that's true. We do make some other wines that aren't available on the broad market, that are just in our tasting room, for our wine club. So we do make Malbec. We've got Cab Franc,
Syrah, and we do some Bordeaux blends, as well as more Sauvignon Blancs, and like those rosés we were talking about. We have a couple levels of those. So we're very busy here, but we're happy to share these 5 with you over there. Yeah, let's see. Some more questions. We answered that one. Oh, what are your thoughts on biodynamic wines and natural wines? That's a tough one. So biodynamic is a really intensive practice that is not as regulated in America as it is in Europe. So there's not a ton of that going on here at the moment, but soon I'm sure it'll come on over. I had a little bit of experience working with it in France, and had a lot of fun bearing cow horns and stuff. But all in all, it's about paying attention to your site, paying attention to your vineyard, and being there every day and looking at what's going on and just really being in touch. So that's what we like to do here. Let's see. What's important to you as a winemaker in the cellar? Well, kind of went over
We talked about minimalism, which is really important. The other thing, to me, one of the things that is very important to me in the cellar is our crew. And making sure that our crew is really happy and that they understand what we're doing, that they get to taste the wine, and they understand that their role is absolutely critical in what we do. So I would say that, they're probably my biggest focus.
Yes. I think our newest employee has been here 10 years or so. And then the guy who's been here the longest has been here for 35 years. So we love Angeline, and we're here to stay. And it's really, we have a lot of fun making these wines. So I think that wraps us up.
Yeah.
Any last questions?
Yeah. Any last questions before we sign off?
Oh, there's one more.
Oh, okay.
We're getting there.
We got a couple more. What was the hardest winemaking vintage you've ever experienced?
Oh, I can tell you.
That story.
So 2010 was horrible. And then 2011, I wished I had 2010 back. So 2011, I was making some wine. I had some wine that came in from some grapes that came in from Oregon, and they didn't come in until the second week of November, and they were only 20.4 bricks. And being a California winemaker, so in California, it's illegal to chaptalize. So we can't add sugar, which is what they do everywhere else. But when you get fruit that comes in at 20.4 bricks, it's a little bit challenging to try to make. So 2011 was definitely my challenge.
I think it was challenging for a lot of winemakers in California. It was a really notoriously cold year, and fog would stay in all day, and
it was
not
wet,
get right.
And it was
rain. And so luckily we haven't had a year like that ever since, and we've gotten pretty lucky despite the drought with some fabulous years since then. 2018 was an exceptionally good year with the wines that we have here, and then 19 was also a really good year. So we have a lot to look forward to there. Tessa would like to know what it's like being a woman in the industry. I think it's changing a lot, at least in California. I'm seeing more and more women in power positions in winemaker and stuff like that. And it definitely used to be a boys' club, but I think it's no longer, will be that way for much longer.
And I can happily say that every position that I have had in the past 15 years, I've hired women as assistant winemakers, and that's something that I'm really proud of, to really sort of help mentor women to come into this industry. I've gotten jobs because I was a woman, and I have been told that I shouldn't be hired because I'm a woman. So it sort of goes both ways.
Yeah. It's an interesting time to have a career in winemaking for sure. Let's see, what is our favorite aspect of winemaking? Harvest is always super fun because it's like a blank slate. So you're getting the fruit, which determines a certain level of things, but then you have so many decisions you can make to drive that fruit into different wines. So doing lots of small lot fermentations to experiment is really interesting. We've been able to conduct so many experiments this year and really try to pick which ones are best, and then use the different results of the experiment to create balance in wines.
The thing that I really like about winemaking is that it appeals to both sides of my personality, and that I do have this sort of really inner geeky chemistry part, but then I also love cooking. And so it's great because there's so much science that goes into it, but then a lot of it is just being able to put things together until they taste good. And I don't think there's anything better than creating, like, sharing food with somebody or sharing wine with somebody. It's like sharing a glass of love.
It is. That's one of my favorite things about wine, is that it comes in this bottle that is clearly meant to share. It's not like a beer can or beer bottles for one person, but a wine bottle is to share with people. And that's important, and I think a cool part of wine as a tradition in our cultures.
Here's a question that says, if you were a wine grape, what would I be? That one's really easy for me, and the answer is Pinot, because Pinot needs a cool climate.
Yes.
The weather in Pinot growing areas is phenomenal. I'm not a big heat person, so it wouldn't be Cab, but definitely be Pinot.
Insightful. Let's see, I would be Sangiovese, because I love Italy and Tuscany, and if I could just chill in the Tuscan countryside in the lovely sun amongst the sunflowers, that sounds good to me. Plus, Sangiovese also goes so well with food, that Chianti classic style, and that's some of my favorite pizza wine, so that's fun. Well, I think we have reached our time limit for today, but we had lots of fun. Let's see. We just want to remind you all that we love making wine here at Angeline, and we want to make wines that are really good value and with great purpose and amazing quality.
And thank you very much for joining us on this edition of Winemakers Live from Angeline Vineyards.
See you
Take
later.
care.